Hi, everyone. I'm Cecilia Curtis, and I want to welcome you to the Friendship Tour podcast, where we talk about the true gift of friendship with some of my truest friends. We talk about making friends, keeping friends, and everything in between friendship related. Today's guest is Michelle Dallas. Michelle is no stranger to the Friendship Tour. She was here on a previous episode talking about what you do when a friend moves away. Because Michelle and I met in Northern California, which is where I live, and she moved away to Alaska, and I still miss her. So we talked all about that on a previous episode. But today, she's here to talk about iron sharpening iron. Michelle is a nurse practitioner. She's an entrepreneur. She's a great wife and mother and a really, really, really great friend. And she's one of those people who just seems like she has her life all together and she pushes me to be better in all areas of my life. And I love her for that. So that is why I thought of her for this episode. Hi, Michelle.
Hey, Cecilia. Thanks for having me again. It's always a joy to see you and to be a part of your podcast. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for making time again. You are actually just really busy living your life, and I love that. So I do appreciate you carving out time to do not one, but two episodes. So thank you very much. You were here on a previous episode. Hopefully, people heard that episode. If not, go back and listen to it. But we did talk about how we met, so I'll keep that part short today. Our husbands worked together, and they were cool, and they thought that they should extend the love, and we should meet, and our kids should meet, and the rest is history. We became immediate friends. So thank you guys for bringing us together. I usually don't do a big friendship story, like friendship moment, if someone's been on the podcast a couple times, but you said you have another story and now I need to hear it.
I do have another story. So, as Cecilia mentioned, we moved away in June of 2020, and here we are in Anchorage, Alaska. And I didn't know anybody, and I didn't have a job yet. So, I remember it was November 30th of
Hmm.
2020. It was the first day of my new job at the new hospital. And that was during the time of COVID. And I remember our kids' daycare had closed because there was a COVID case. So the class was shut down. So a couple of days before that, we had interviewed a babysitter to come and help out because I was starting my new job. So the morning of, about 6 o'clock, the phone rang and it was the babysitter telling me that she was sick. She wasn't going to be able to make it. And I was thinking, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? I don't have anyone to help me and I have to go to work. It's the first day. I can't be late. So that day, we ended up scrambling, finding a babysitter come over last minute. So she came over at 7:30. And I will never forget, I was in a rush and I started my car, opened the garage door, and I backed into that garage door. And I was so distraught. I was so devastated. I was so anxious, mad at myself. What was I thinking? And I remember in that moment, I called Cecilia. Lord knows what was she going to do in California, but I needed her at that moment in time. So I called her. I only had about 2 to 3 minutes to spare. Cecilia answered the phone. I didn't say good morning. I didn't ask if she was busy. I didn't ask if you had time to talk, but she had to have time to talk because I needed to vent on my morning.
Yeah.
And I remember she just sat there. She didn't offer advice. She didn't ask me what was I thinking because I wasn't thinking. I ran into the garage door. And all I needed was her to be silent and just listen to me in that moment. And I remember at the end, she got off the phone and she said, Michelle, it's going to be a great day. You got this. And we hung up. And I immediately told myself, I got this. And I went into that new job and I was ready to rock the world. So thank you, Cecilia. I needed you
Aw.
in that moment. I needed you.
Aw.
Thank you. Thank you.
You are so welcome. We were all struggling at that point with COVID and the little kids and new jobs, and you had just moved and you didn't have any support. You didn't have any yet. I mean, I know your life has changed in the time that you've been there, but I'm glad I could be there for you in that moment. And I know you've answered the phone for more than one of my calls when I've been feeling some kind of way. So that's what friends do. We pick up the
Yes.
phone and we just sit there. We just
Yes.
listen. So
That's all I needed in that moment.
I'm glad I could be there. Well, I was sitting, this was over the summer. I was sitting in vacation Bible school. Our church had a like family vacation Bible school.
Okay.
So I was sitting in vacation Bible school, and the message was about iron sharpening iron. And Brian was closer to the front of the church, and I was near the back of the church. And I was just listening to the message. And I texted Brian during the sermon. I texted him and I just said, Michelle equals iron sharpens iron. And he replied and said, yes, absolutely. So I came home. I think I texted you the very next morning and I was like, what do you think about doing this? So that's how we ended up here. I mean, the whole idea of iron sharpening iron comes from Proverbs 27:17, and it refers to the concept of mutual influence and growth through constructive interactions. And that's you in a nutshell. Like that's a fancy way of saying it, but that's you. You make my life better in so many different ways. But I want to hear from you. Like, what do you think? What does that mean to you? Iron sharpens iron.
Yeah, so when I think about iron sharpens iron, I think about an individual who helps strengthen, encourage, challenge the other person to, be a better person. We offer, honest feedback.
Hmm.
We're there for good counsel and constructive criticism. So I think of it as like a mutual kind of partnership almost. It's all done in the name of love. And in the end, we're just really just trying to help and improve the other person. So that's what I really think about when we talk about iron sharpens iron.
Yeah. I agree. And it's all done in love. Like you said, all done in love. And I think about all the things that you've done for me, with me, kind of in the name of love. You know, faith. You and I are both women of faith. And I appreciate the times that you've called me and said, or texted and said, can you pray for this situation for me?
Yes.
And I would not call myself a prayer warrior. But when you ask me to pray, or whenever anyone asks me to pray, I'm going to do it. And I appreciate it because it gives me an opportunity to partner with you, and it gives me an opportunity to go back before God in a way that maybe I haven't done in a couple days.
Mhm.
So I appreciate you giving me that opportunity, and I appreciate you being the person on the other side when I say, "Hey, I need you now. You gonna be there. You gonna pray for me in this situation." So I love that about our relationship. Even family. I mean, I've already said you're a great wife and a great mom, but you're a really great wife and mom. And the way that I see, and I say that because I actually see your husband more than I see you in real life because he comes to California for work sometimes. But I hear how he talks about you. I see the look on his face when he's telling my husband and me about you. I know if he comes to visit, you're usually on the phone when he's walking through the door. Like it's, he loves you, he adores you. And I can say, Michelle does this, 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 and this, and that makes you a good wife. But what makes you a good wife is seeing how your husband loves you and respects you and honors you even when he's far away. Your kids, so that pushes me to be better. Like, oh man, I need to be a little more supportive to Brian. Like if Michelle can be supportive, I can be supportive. And then fun. You're always pushing me to be like, girl, what trip you got coming up? What y'all doing this weekend?
We have
And
the matching Disney shirts.
did you get your Disney shirts? You always gonna make sure we have everything planned to a T to have fun. So I just love that. And even your health. Like in recent years, you've gotten really serious about your health. And I'm so proud of you. And I love that about you. And it's pushed me to try to do better. I'm not where you are, but it's pushed me to try to do better. I think I got into this rut with like, we had kids and then I hurt my knee and I just kind of fell off. And then I'm like, man, Michelle is crushing it in every area. I can go for a walk today. I can do that. So, yeah, you're pushing me. You're absolutely pushing me to be better in all areas of my life. Um, yeah.
And it's so interesting that you say that because I think sometimes when we have friends, they oftentimes see qualities and attributes that we don't necessarily see within ourselves.
Mhm.
And you're explaining all these things that, oh, Michelle looks like she has everything together, while inside I'm thinking, oh boy, I'm just struggling at making it.
Yeah.
day by day. So it's always nice to have a friend who will oftentimes bring out the best in you.
Yeah. I agree. Well, you bring out the best in me, that's for sure. I think that's why we work so well together,
Yes,
for
hand in
sure.
hand,
Hand
hand
in
in
hand.
yeah,
Partnership, like you
hand
said.
in
I
hand.
like that idea of partnership.
Yes.
So, how do you push or encourage your friends in a healthy way?
I think the biggest thing is when you push your friends is that you really have to do it in a way that respects their boundaries and their personal
Mm,
spaces, and you really have to have positive intentions when you push your friends.
yeah.
You can always encourage them to try something new, maybe discover new strengths and maybe new passions that they didn't see within themselves. Also, you need to lift one another up in prayer. You don't have to call me and say, Michelle, can you say a prayer for this? I know Cecilia is maybe struggling through something today. Let me say an extra prayer for her to
Mm,
help her out. So that's a way. Of course, it's really important to me to, definitely engage in regular, open, honest conversations. As individuals, we need, physical touch and
mhm.
connection and just togetherness, and that's important to have, engaged in meaningful conversation, very open and honest conversations. And then I think it's also important to praise. I want to praise you. When you win, we both
Yeah,
win. And when you're going through a low, I'm going through a low with you. So we're in this together.
absolutely. I always feel like we're in it together. And one thing I really love about you, you are very good about respecting our differences. You and I, there are some things about our lives that are very similar, but we're very different people. I mean,
Yes.
and I think I realized that we went away for a night to a water park, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna throw the bathing suits in the bag and like we just gonna go. And you had everything planned so perfectly. You had the app on the phone and you knew what time everything was happening. And even your daughter pointed out, like, my hair was all over the place. I hadn't packed all the stuff. And your daughter was like, you didn't bring any gel and a brush for your hair. That was her at, I don't know, 5 years old, 4 years
Yeah,
old.
I remember that.
But you are a planner,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
I feel like I plan decently, but you're like a really solid planner. I respect that about you. I love that about you. So there are ways that we're similar and ways that we're not, but you respect how we're not different or how we're different, and you still encourage me to be me.
Yeah.
So you knew that I was having some questions about what I wanted to do with my career and some things like that. You're working in the medical field. You've never pushed me to do what you're doing or to do things how you're doing it. You're always encouraging me to be the best version of me, to use the skills and the talents that God has given me. And I love that. It's very frustrating when someone's like, just do what I did, just do what I did, just do what I'm doing. I don't like talking to those people, but I like talking to you because you respect our differences.
Yeah.
I don't know. I hope that made sense because I feel it very deeply, but maybe I don't communicate it very well.
And
I
I
don't
and
know.
I remember during that time when you were, thinking about a career change, and I was thinking, I think you sent me a text message asking me, what are some good careers that you think I could look into? And I
Hmm.
remember thinking to myself, Cecilia is so musically inclined, very talented, very creative, very tech savvy. And I said, she has an awesome voice. She should do
Mm.
something with her voice. And when you came about this friendship tour and having a podcast, I was like, this is perfect. This is perfect for Cecilia. This is
Oh,
exactly what I was thinking. Something very similar to this. Yes,
oh,
because
well,
it
thank
uses
you.
your strong qualities and the things that you're really really good at.
Thank
So it's
you.
it's
Thank you.
amazing how it's made like a full circle.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. You didn't tell me that before,
I didn't
but
tell you that.
no. So thank you for your support and encouragement and your prayers. I didn't even know you thought that. So thank you. Thank you. Do you think we've talked about how we just keep building each other up, like, girl, you're good at this, girl, you got that. But do you think there's a role for criticism in a friendship? Is that part of the criticism or competition? Do you think there's a role for either of those in iron sharpening iron?
So let's talk about competition first.
Okay.
So when I think about competition, I think of a race, I think of a battle, of a marathon. We're trying to win something, we're competing
Hmm.
to win something. And granted, it's human nature for people to want to win in life and to do the very best at what they're doing. But in terms of a friendship, friendship is not a battleship.
Hmm.
Competition in a friendship can lead to comparison, it can
Mm.
lead to envy, it can lead to jealousy and manipulation. And
Mm.
when you have those things in a friendship, it ultimately can damage the relationship. So I do not think that competition is important in a relationship. At the
Hmm.
end of the day, you know, we both want to win. We both want to see each other being the best versions of themselves. So
Right.
I want to celebrate your wins and your successes, and I want you to, you know, do the same for me. So I do
Hmm.
not think competition is deserves any place in a friendship. And then when we talk about criticism, I do certainly think that there is a place for healthy criticism. Healthy criticism. It certainly can help the person grow and it can learn. And certainly if it's delivered in a respectful and healthy manner. But I also think on the flip side of criticism is that you can't be overly critical or always negative, because you don't want to be that friend. I'm not going to call her today because I know she's got something negative to say. You don't
Mm.
want to do that, because I think in sense that can actually damage a relationship too if you're overly critical. So I think you have to find a balance between criticism.
I agree. You know, when I do these episodes, sometimes the most interesting things are said, and I hate it, but sometimes the most interesting things are said after I stop recording. And you said something the last time we talked after we stopped recording, and it was so funny. It was slightly critical, but also extremely funny. And I was like, I got to get my life together. You said that when you first came over my house, we had this great time, dinner was good, and you wanted to take some home because y'all were still transitioning. You were staying in a hotel, you hadn't moved into your house yet. So you wanted to take some food home and you opened the cabinet where my Tupperware is, and all the Tupperware just fell out on you. And I was like, oh, yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds like what would happen. And then you said you came back, I don't know, 2 years
To
later. Yeah, you came back 2 years later, same scenario. You opened my Tupperware and all the Tupperware fell out on you. And I appreciated that for a couple reasons. You said it and it's true, but only a really good friend would know that. Only a really good friend would, first of all, have been comfortable in my house to open the Tupperware cabinet, and only a good friend would know that it's going to fall out. But there was a little bit of criticism when you said it. I was like, oh, I need to get my Tupperware together because I don't want Michelle to come back to my house another time and it falls out on her. So I think that's the right way to do criticism, with a teeny tiny bit of humor and joke, but there's so much truth in it. My Tupperware is a mess and people know it, and I need to get it together. So I received that criticism. My husband and I had a very good laugh about it, like a really good
and you
laugh.
know
But it's good.
all in the name of love, Cecilia, because
Yes.
if you were to come to my house, my Tupperware cabinet looks exactly the same.
Yeah.
So I'm like, we got this sense. Like, I feel you. I feel you. I'm going to be critical, but I feel you.
Yeah, yeah. No, I receive it. I receive it.
Yes, yes.
Can you think of a time that someone, whether it's something simple like Tupperware or something bigger and more impactful in your life, can you think of a time when someone pushed you and maybe they nudged you to be better?
Yeah,
And how did you respond?
yeah. So I think about one time in particular, as Cecilia mentioned, I'm a nurse and nurse practitioner now, but my first nursing job was at this large academic educational institution where there were a lot of research being done, et cetera. And I worked on this particular unit and I was there for about 2 years. And my time was up. I was getting ready to relocate and move closer to home. And I remember talking with some of my colleagues about, you know, where should I go work next? Like what type of environment, what type of nursing unit? So I remember they were like, oh, Michelle, I think you would be a wonderful ICU nurse. You should think about going work in the ICU. I was like, think I can do that. The ICU has smart nurses and, they're really on top of their things, taking care of sick patients. I think I can do this. And initially, I remember feeling very scared, the fear of the unknown, anxious, not knowing what to expect. I remember just going into this thinking, what if I'm not good at this? I want to
Mm,
be a great ICU nurse, and what if I'm not good at it? So I remember working there for about 6 to 8 months out of the year, and I definitely, learned new skills, developed new skill sets, and met new people, new mentors. But I remember during that time, it just wasn't the place for me. It just
mm,
didn't fulfill my passion and what I wanted out of my nursing career. I like my patients awake and oriented, and there they were all sedated on the ventilator. I couldn't talk to
mm,
them. So it just wasn't really a great place for me. But I remember initially they pushed me to try something that I didn't really believe would be a good fit for myself. But I said, I can do this. I can do this. And in the end, of course, I only stayed for about 6 to 8 months. And then after that, I went to a new setting. And I remember looking back thinking, I'm so proud of myself for doing this, for trying something new, stepping out of my comfort zone. I met a lot of, wonderful people, doctors and nurses along the way, developed new techniques and new skill set. But it just wasn't for me. But I was so glad that I took that opportunity to try something different. And I think in life that's what happens. Usually when you want to try something new, you're really scared because you don't think you could fit in. You don't think you'll be
yeah.
good at it. You don't think you'll win. And in the end, you might not necessarily win, but you still learn something from it. You still
Yeah.
learn something from it.
Yeah, you still learn something, and hopefully it's just the step that's getting you closer to where you're supposed to be, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes too, when people are pushed, they're scared. I know
Mhm.
now being an adult and, I'm settled, I'm in my routine, I'm content, I'm happy. I'm not trying to learn anything new right now. I don't have time to do anything different, is that mentality. But then once you realize I do have time, I can do this,
Mhm.
it leads to a good outcome on the other side.
It's interesting you say that because I actually put this in my notes and it didn't come up until now, but I feel like you're always learning. You're always learning. You're always going to some conference. They happen to be in fabulous places, but you're always going to some conference. You're self-taught in terms of building your business. I mean, I definitely look at you and think you're always learning and growing and stretching and challenging yourself. So it's
And I
funny.
guess I guess what I was thinking about learning is that, for the past 15 years it's all been just nursing. Everything
Mm,
has been healthcare, everything has been medicine. So stepping out of that healthcare arena and learning something outside of that, I
okay.
guess is my sense of what I was kind of referring to.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Michelle, great conversation again. Thank you for just being you. I mean, you know what you mean to me, and hopefully the world is starting to understand what you mean to me. You're such a great friend. I think, we can talk about iron sharpening iron, and it's important. It's really important, but it's not always about spoken words of support and encouragement and affirmation. Sometimes it's just about being who you are. There are plenty of times that you have spoken those words of encouragement, but your greater influence is definitely in just who you are. And I respect you. I admire all of that about you. Um, you're a really, really, really great friend, and you are my iron. So thank you for just helping me.
Thank you, Cecilia. Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure. And you're stuck with me for life, friend.
Oh, for sure. It's mutual. All
Yeah.
right. And tell the family I said hi.
Will
And
do.
your husband too. He sharpens Brian and me. So yeah, I think we have a good thing going. We're all stuck with each other at this point.
We are. We are. Well, have a good day, friend.
All
It's
right.
always
You too.
fun to see
Love
you.
you.
Love you too. Bye bye.
Bye.